Welcome back to another My Hero Academia final season breakdown, this time going over the second episode titled The End of an Era and The Beginning. Of course, we are going to be breaking down the episode as well as the entire season, going over all of the Easter eggs and references, so be sure to Detroit smash that like button and subscribe to the Kitoroki channel so that you won't miss any My Hero Academia final season breakdowns. Now, the episode begins with All Might remembering his past, as we see All Might laughing alongside his mother reading a superhero children's book. The book he's reading being Anpanman, a popular Japanese superhero created by Takashi Yanase in 1973. The scene itself parallels baby Deku back in chapter 1 of the series, as Deku had a similar experience with his mother watching videos of All Might. A beautiful parallel showing fantasy becoming reality. Now, these lines stating "why was I made" and "what am I here to do" are actually lyrics from Anpanman no March. Anpanman's theme being here has a deeper meaning as it reflects All Might's character heavily in the way that the song goes on about old scars still hurting, living in the present with a smile on your face, and protecting the dreams of others. All things that we see All Might go through in his journey throughout the series. All Might states that his memories are almost too tender to be called a proper origin, which I think is a little wild for him to say, because we do know that growing up, All Might's family died because of villain attacks, which made him not accept a world where those who take from others come out on top, and those who have had everything stolen from them turn their grief into hatred, continuing an endless cycle of chaos, which made him want to become a symbol of peace for the world. I feel like All Might is way too humble here when it comes to how he views himself, and let's be honest, that's exactly why we all love him. All Might looks back at everything he's done in his life, glancing down the path he took, and what he saw seemed very significant as we see orbs of light rising from the ground. The lights all symbolizing those he had inspired. The anime does remove the one specific light resembling Bakugo's explosions. We then head to the present, where the last episode ended, with Stain on the glider flying towards All for One, yelling for All Might to conquer All for One. As they go in for the attack, we see a flashback to right after Stain eavesdropped on Shoto and Ida's conversation with All Might back in season 7, where he pretty much understood that All Might was heading off to fight All for One, and he followed the trail of their battle. He was able to find a piece of rubble covered in blood, but wasn't sure if the blood had belonged to All Might or All for One. And even though his nose had been mutilated, an act we actually got to witness during the first season of Vigilantes, his nose was still more than capable of identifying blood by scent. And having already had a very close encounter with All Might in season 6, he could tell that the blood's scent didn't belong to All Might. Stain and All Might both understood why Stain had arrived to help the hero because of their heart-to-heart in season 6 and his wish for All Might to come for the life of Stain, the man who had murdered 40 heroes. Stain believes All Might of all people has the right to cling desperately for life after all he's done and sacrificed for the world. So he is here because All Might must live. Just before Stain and All Might can do anything though, All for One uses his forcible quirk activation to use his bloodlet quirk, a quirk that allows him to expel his own blood from his body. All for One knew Stain would try to help the heroes in some way, ever since Stain was the only villain to refuse All for One at Tartarus and escaped on his own terms. So he made sure to hold on to this quirk specifically meant to counter Stain. Stain tells him that blood is blood even outside of the body, but he is quickly shut down as All for One grabs him with the mouth appendage from his back, telling Stain that he had an antigen swap quirk that allows him to overwrite his own blood type. This was a quirk that was the main reason why he was able to rule so long back then, as he could change his blood type, making it so he never left a trace of himself behind. He then sends Stain crashing through multiple buildings and flies after him. All Might, chasing behind him, calls out for Stain. Having crashed into a game center, All for One tells Stain that he will be stealing his blood curdle quirk. He even thanks Stain for his valuable contributions to the growth of the League, and by extension, Shigaraki, as he was the one who showed Shigaraki that he lacked conviction, but that his role ended there. Stain lets All for One know that his role didn't end there. there. He raises his hands, smiling, noting that he never benefited from a higher education, but it was All Might who taught him what a hero is, as his role was to be sacrificed for All Might to live on and triumph, with his last words being his final goodbye to All Might, his hero and his everything. He is then killed by All For One with a single blow, stealing the hero killer's quirk. A somewhat fitting end to the villain being able to not only inspire his hero and sacrifice his life for his hero to live on to inspire others, but also in a way be one of the pillars that helped bring back true heroes and helped in the war against All For One. With Stain's quirk now in his arsenal, All For One turns around and fires a blast at All Might, who had just made it to the game center. Hercules, in a final attempt to protect All Might from the blast, forms one final shield as Hercules, who is voiced by Melissa Shield, tells All Might that he must live on. All Might is hit by the beam and the armor is destroyed. All Might lays there defeated, but a familiar voice calls out to him as we see Nana Shimura is there telling him that he can do it and the battle isn't over yet, as the tale is still being written. All Might believes he is hallucinating, though I will say it's kind of hinted that this really isn't a hallucination, as Bakugo in season 7 had a very similar experience with the vestige of All Might. Sir Night-Eye, a character who died during the events of season 4, shows up and All Might tells himself that his support items, his legs, everything he had has been rendered useless. He no longer can fight, however, he isn't dead yet. Which is kind of different from the manga because it's always insinuated that Sir Night-Eye was the one that said all of this to him. And All Might, still with an armored arm, crawls towards All For One, saying do your worst, as it's revealed that All For One is now within range to use his Gloop Warp on Shigaraki. Also, I love that Sir Night-Eye and Nana Shimura both appear like Force Ghosts, which is an obvious reference to Star Wars, a franchise that Horikoshi himself loves so much. We switch over to the coffin in the sky and see the Twice clones disappearing, meaning that 20 minutes has passed since the start of All Might and All For One's battle. Creaty notices this, and we see that this whole time Creaty had been mowing down the Twice doubles with a minigun and a grenade launcher mounted on her shoulders, these being tiny references to War Machine and of course Bakugo, who in season 7 had the strafe panzer launchers that were mounted on his back when fighting Shigaraki. Tsukauchi stresses over All For One being in range of Shigaraki and notes that Deku and Shigaraki have been in a stalemate for a while. All For One states that granting Shigaraki the duplicated copy of All For One that he has will make Shigaraki become a version of himself that surpasses even himself. I know it sounds a little confusing, but this is why All For One originally took on a copy of his own quirk, so that when Shigaraki was granted the original quirk, All For One could then give Shigaraki the copy of his quirk, essentially doubling down the vestiges of All For One, making him powerful enough to fully take over Shigaraki's body and become the next him. Similar to how Palpatine transferred his essence into a clone body and eventually was going to take over Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. It's why All For One throughout the series calls Shigaraki the next him, because he literally means that shit. All Might tries to get All For One's attention, but All For One begins to gloop Shigaraki and Shigaraki rejects the warp. All For One realizes his vestige must have been swallowed up and he smiles at All Might, saying that he will have to do the legwork himself. He grabs All Might by his broken leg and flies towards Deku and Shigaraki. He tells All Might to keep that pathetic look on his face and take responsibility for the dreams he filled the next generation's heads with. Shigaraki tells Deku to go and save All Might, giving Deku an ultimatum to either go and save All Might and let Shigaraki go back to UA and finish off the rest of the heroes, or stay and fight him and watch All Might die. Deku sees All Might and All For One getting closer, and he remembers the promise him and All Might made to each other, where All Might said he would shape his own fate, and Deku being by his side, changing fate with him. Deku begins to fight back tears, knowing what's to come, choosing not to cry to be the best apprentice he could be for All Might, as he remembers All Might had told him to stop being a crybaby. Then the vestige of All Might within One For All begins to change as Deku screams for All Might. All Might then remembers the question Deku asked him that fateful day: can someone without a quirk become a hero like you? And he answers saying you can. All Might remembers everything Deku has done throughout the series, continuing saying, because you're someone who gives his all every time, someone who could never let his dream die, inspiring him to not abandon his own dream, his dream to be the symbol of peace. All Might swings his body up to All For One, wrapping his arm around his neck as his gauntlet prepares to explode. The gauntlet, of course, called Explosion Murder God Dynamite, named after Bakugo. All For One then recalls Nana Shimura's final moments, which puzzles him because all she did was die a pathetic death, having put her ideals first without having the power to back them up. In the flashback, All For One is about to end Nana Shimura's life, but she tells him that she has no doubt that he will fall to All Might, because All Might is even more unhinged than him. All Might smiles, telling All For One that after this death, maybe he will turn into a little kindergartner again, which makes All For One realize that All Might is actually insane to willingly try and take the both of them out with an explosion. All For One interrupts All Might's death, as it turns out he had sent spikes through All Might's arm, stopping the gauntlet from exploding, taking away the choice All Might had on how his life would end. All For One licks All Might's blood, freezing him in place, grabbing the hero by the neck. All For One then smiles so hard that it tears the corners of his mouth, giving him a Glasgow smile, turning full Joker, seeing All Might finally at his lowest. Everyone watches, and just as Gentle was going to make a move to help All Might, All For One hits Yue with a beam, making Yue once again plummet to the earth, and claims he was actually trying to kill Gentle, but Yue threw his aim off. The American pilots in the X-66s arrive to help, but they too are taken out by All For One. Agpar watches from America and begins to pray for the heroes and All Might as Deku helplessly watches. The entire world is watching as we see people from different parts of the world begin to pray in hope that All Might gets saved, or just flat out accept that All Might is done for. Melissa Shield in America and Gran Torino both make cameo appearances as they watch All Might get lifted up in the air by All For One, who is ready to tear the symbol of peace in half. As everyone helplessly watches, Deku turns and it's revealed Bakugo is standing once more, holding onto his All Might trading card, letting us know that Ed Shot's attempt to bring Bakugo back to life was a success. It's then shown what exactly All Might had saw when looking back at his legacy, as we see Deku and Bakugo as kids holding onto the orbs of light, having been inspired by All Might and picking up the torch he left behind, validating All Might's impact and importance as a hero. Deku and Bakugo stare at each other, knowing exactly what they have to do, showing us that All Might's influence continues to inspire the two even in his darkest hour. Now, this episode adapted 3 chapters, them being chapters 401, 402, and 403. I'm not gonna lie, this episode was actual cinema. There was just so much emotion throughout this episode that it genuinely made me tear up a few times. Also, I love how they visually showed that this trading card now represents hope. The visual of the light going into the trading card, validating everything All Might has done in his life, was so beautiful because it showed just how important All Might is to the world and to these heroes, Bakugo and Deku. Let me know your thoughts on the second episode of My Hero Academia's final season. Are you happy that Bakugo is finally back in action? Let me know everything in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Kitaroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you won't miss any My Hero Academia final season breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.